some hope to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you as always. Sitting in the solo chair this evening, December 2nd, Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time for episode number 260. Oh, this is a great title. Good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
You think this will get some eyes? The title of this podcast is The Jews, which makes me think of Dave Chappelle, who had a very funny joke that he said there's two words in the English language that you never put together, the and Jews. He said, hey, anybody that does that, after that date, things go downhill for him. But since I'm already at the bottom of the hill, it can only go up for us. So we're going to tell the truth, search for truth. And I want to start out with some basic housekeeping ideas. Number one, everybody that's watching, and I mean everyone, every Thursday night, there is a new Spaces on X called Minnesota Speaks, started by two Minnesota citizens, Lieutenant Aldo and Minnesota Lady. They came together. They put together this Spaces. It's growing. We're getting politicians coming in there to pitch their story. We're getting a growing audience of people. And I have been, and I want to thank Lieutenant Aldo and Minnesota Lady, who I've met personally now. And Lieutenant Aldo, I look forward to sitting down with you sometime. They've welcomed me, they've embraced me, and they give me a forum to speak there, and it's been tremendous. It's sensational because what can we do there? We could aggregate 10,000 Minnesota citizens and from all over the country. Because look at Tanner, Minnesota's at the center of everything.
Yeah, we really are.
We
on
are
top
the center of fraud on planet Earth.
That's not
Isn't
the
that
angle
a
I
great
thought.
handle? We are the fraudster state in the United States of America, or at least we're the state where the fraud's getting revealed, because I'm onto a new idea, which is this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I've been thinking the same thing. As soon as you see mainstream media start to talk about it a lot, they want it to be talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's not look at all the other issues like healthcare, education, energy, social services, NGOs. Let's just keep it focused on this group of people, these bad people, which there are some bad people there for sure. And they're going to jail, and that's great. But just in the fraud aspect, we got to find out how deep this rabbit hole goes. And that's what Minnesota Speaks is great for. We got citizens coming together. I'd like to get thousands and thousands of citizens together, and people talk about issues, which is great. Those of you that know me know I've been influenced by the progenitor of the precinctstrategy.com, Dan Schultz, where you can go to get everything you need to know about getting into the game of politics, precinct strategy. The idea being, for me, I'm pretty clear about the issues. I'm into the strategy and tactics necessary to change this. I don't personally, well, of course, the podcast is about issues. We're talking about issues. We do. We talk about current events, and we talk about things that are interesting to me and interesting to Tanner. And we have guests on the podcast. It's great. But through the entire podcasts, there's this pressure that I'm trying to put upon this audience to get involved in politics. And what I'm trying to do here is create the strategy and tactics that we need here in Minnesota. And if you're listening to me in, let's say, England, like my new associate, Yara, who's probably listening, the strategy and tactics work everywhere. And this reminds me, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm sorry, I'm rather stream of consciousness, particularly today when I haven't done a solo podcast for a while. I was in a Spaces that was led by Yara about Somaliland, and she was with her team of co-creators. They were talking about that Horn of Africa and Somaliland and the Somalis and the different tribal conflicts that are there. And she asked me to speak. I didn't intend to speak. I was just there as a listener. And she saw me in the crowd and she said, "Would you please speak?" I said, "Sure." And I said, "Look," and I mean this with all my respect, I am deeply personally concerned about genocide, about war, about hunger and famine and abuse anywhere in the world. Because when it happens anywhere, it's coarsening and degrading the lives of everybody on the planet. But I said to them, I really can't help with the Somaliland issue. That's for the Somalilanders. I'm a Minnesotan. I'm focused on W3PB, my precinct. Politics is local. Strategies and tactics are local. And if we all pursue a local strategy and tactic, guess what? The whole will be changed because the whole is the sum of the parts. The corruption is in our backyards, and we got to start right with our neighbors. So I said to the people on that spaces, I said, please don't take this wrong. We have to look at where our interests are aligned. Where are our interests aligned? We in Minnesota can't solve the problems in the Horn of Africa. We're not into foreign policy. We're not in the federal government. We're everyday, regular citizens in the state of Minnesota. We're concerned about the state of Minnesota, but because there's all this fraud that has diverted billions of Minnesota taxpayer dollars, and it seems that the trail is going to lead into this conflict in the Horn of Africa, now our interests are aligned. And so that's what we got to do in politics. We got to find out how our interests align with other groups, but we need to stay focused on our own backyard. And our own backyard where we can gather is Minnesota Speaks, a Spaces on X, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. And I urge all of you to join, all of you to come, all of you to participate. Anybody can take the mic. We talk about issues there, but when I take the mic, I'm talking about strategy and tactics. And what do I want to do there? I'd like to get 10,000 Minnesota citizens there before February 1st. And I want to drive all of them, and I mean drive them because it takes some work, to caucus so that we can change the nature of the political parties here in Minnesota. Because if we leave the same people in control of the parties and they generate the same candidates, institutionally supported, money gathering politicians, professional politicians that have come out of the machine, and we're going to expect there's going to be change. Oh, that's kind of a joke, isn't it? Speaking of my Zoomer friend here, a Zoomer, right?
Zoomer.
You're Zoomer.
Is that I've been hearing you say that. Is that what people call my generation?
In Washington, we're going to talk about this. They call your generation the Zoomers as a juxtaposition to the Boomers.
Yeah, well, I think they're trying to run away from the Doomers also.
Well, I'm just going to say it's a very important cohort. It's our most important cohort, young people. When you come to Minnesota Speaks, why don't you bring your kids? Bring your neighbors. Everybody bring 2 or 3 people. You'll be able to find the link to get to the meeting on X every Thursday night. Minnesota Lady, Lieutenant Aldo, I'll repost the link. All of us need to repost that link. We're having sometimes 1,000 people in there. We can get 10,000 in a couple weeks if we really work at it. And that's the difference between entertainment and strategy and tactics. My strategy is to get thousands of new people in the caucus. My tactic is to try to work it through Minnesota Speaks. How does that work? Well, please come to the spaces and bring people with you. That's very, very ultra critical. Okay, let's talk about TireGet just for a second. Just for a second. Tanner's going to put in some ads probably during this podcast. Why are we doing that? Well, hey, we're not breaking even, and we want to expand this, and we could get to break even right away. Hey, it's snowing. We had a snowstorm.
Yeah, a pretty bad one too.
How did your tires work?
They worked really well, actually.
Those low, inexpensive.
Yeah, inexpensive.
Not cheap. Inexpensive tires that you bought 4 tires for your vehicle.
Yeah. Truthfully, I was a little worried. I was like, all right, this is the test. Let's see if David's telling the truth. And yeah, they work just fine.
Isn't that amazing?
I had no issue.
And I had a follower of the podcast over the weekend buy 4 American-made tires, and he paid $1,500 for tires that he could have bought for $600, the size. And I thought to myself, wow, that is so cool that we have citizens that will step up and buy American manufactured products, and we've got them on TireGet. So TireGet is a national strategy. Wherever you're listening to me, we can deliver you tires at the best price in the business, the best service in the business, the best guarantee in the business. We'll mount them right by your house, 10-minute drive from your house. For $25 a wheel, we'll dismount your old tire, mount your new tire, balance it, give you a new valve stem, and dispose of your old tire. Hey, $25 a wheel, check that out. That's usually a deal. So we're asking you to please support TireGet.com. Everybody needs to think about their tires. It's winter time. Let us not end up in the ditch.
Yeah, that sucks.
That's a drag. And look at this one. Just right. It's almost Christmas.
Let me get another angle on that. Oh,
Kathy, look at these. Kathy, my good friend Kathy, she supports Free People Store. Look at this. This needs to be a uniform. We're not far right. You want to go far right? Listen to Nick Fuentes. He's far right. No, we're just right. And Royce came up with this idea at he was just riffing at a political event. And I said, he goes, we're not far right. We're just right. I thought, wow, that's gold. That's gold. So here's the t-shirt. It's at the freepeopleradio.com/store. Buy 20 of them and give them out at Christmas. Thank you for supporting us because we need your support. We're a community. And let me tell you, just so you know, I'm not going to take the money and buy a new car. I'm not going to take the money and buy a new house. I'm not even going to buy new clothes. I'm going to take the money and expand this programming so there's more information being disseminated into the United States of America, the state of Minnesota. And one more thing that is critical. And Tanner, I'm going to lay this on you.
Oh, no.
On December 10th, Wednesday, a week from tomorrow night, we will be having our first CD3 community meeting at 7 p.m. That's December 10th, 7 p.m. December 10th, 7 p.m. You are invited if you're in Minnesota. Hey, if you're skinny, if you want to fly in from out of town, we'd love to host you. At Wayzata Central Middle School. This is the first in an ongoing series, a monthly series of community meetings at the Wayzata Central Middle School. It has a 700-seat auditorium. We are going to fill that auditorium. So if you're in the Minnesota Speaks community, what a great opportunity for us all to get together and meet face-to-face and develop peer-to-peer real relationships. You see how this is working together? We got this great group, Minnesota Speaks. It's digital. Now I've created a monthly meeting with a 700-seat auditorium where all these people can come and gather, and we're going to have political presentations, talk about strategy and tactics, and the candidates are going to appear. And you know, Kristen Robbins, Lisa Damuth, you know, all of you, you're going to have to be there. And I'm going to say this to Stan Hamilton, the executive chair of the CD3 Executive Committee. Stan, I asked you to participate. I'm asking all the executive board members to participate. I'm asking to participate because guess what? I'm all about unity. Now, the word came back to me that some of the people on that board don't like me. And I'm going to tell you, grow the fuck up. Because this is not about liking each other. This is about, you have to deal with reality in your own backyard. If you don't show up, then don't complain when you get pushed out. If you show up and we develop unity and cooperation, hey, maybe we can beat the communists. Could we focus on what's really important? Not hating each other. I don't hate you people. Don't be a stone in my shoe. Don't be a rock in the road. Show up. Let's build the community. And why do I say this? Because I've been in CD3 doing politics for quite a while now, and I know what's going on here, which is just about nothing.
Is this a revive of the masterclass?
This, in fact, is exactly a revive of the masterclass.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be there for the first one then.
Would you bring a camera with you, please?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yes. Okay,
I
great.
can definitely do that.
Because there's going to be a lot of content here, and we can cut that content into shorts and post it up. It's live. And for those of you that might be concerned, there will be security there. Everybody that goes into that auditorium is going to get a wand. So we're going to have good security. We might even have some coffee and donuts. I don't know what the budget's going to be yet. It's possible. But hey, what we're really going to have is community. We're not going to beat these people without community. So you're invited. Well, on to the podcast.
On to the podcast.
On to the podcast. The Jews. Well, we had that one lady said, I had to wait an hour before you said anything about the subject.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of housekeeping here.
Right. Hey, you know what? It's just the way I am.
We're trying to organize as much as we're trying
He's
to
trying to
entertain.
keep me organized, and I'm, there's a plus.
Hold up. You don't even have to say anything. Hold up your script. Look how thick that thing is.
This is what I studied to put together for tonight's podcast. And I put a lot of time into these solo podcasts. And the way my mind works, I can be very, very linear. I'm very good at math. I'm very good at science. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I mean, I could have been a professor of medicine, which I was supposed to be, actually. And I just don't like the way it makes me feel. I just don't like it. I prefer movement. I prefer stream of consciousness. I prefer to be inspired. I prefer being outside of the L7. I like to be on the outside. And boy, there's a heavy price to be paid for that. But you know what? There's a heavy price to be paid for being inside the L7.
Mm.
So here's the deal. We're humans. There's a heavy price to be paid for being a human. It's just it's
human condition.
Let me tell you something. Don't hate the players, hate the game. I didn't make the game. I'm just trying to make the game better. Let's play number one, and I'll tell you why we're playing it. While I'm trying to make the game better, we got people dedicated to making it a whole hell of a lot worse. Let's play number one.
You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. Our immigration system does need to be fair if we want to maintain that binding contract that our politics is built on. And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Did you get that?
It's
Can we all
as
stop
simple
now?
as that.
That's great. That is the top dog in Great Britain, Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And guess what he's saying? Did you hear what he said?
Yeah.
And I've been warning about this for a couple of years, and people actually say to me, I'm a conspiracy theorist.
That's interesting. I had a conversation yesterday at dinner about this, and the person, they didn't accuse me of being conspiracy. They were just like asking me questions. Well, why did they do this? Why did they do this? And it eventually landed in the point. I was like, they want digital ID. And his mind just blew when I was telling him that, like, London and there's another European country, right?
There's 70 countries that are doing this
gosh.
right now.
So I'm
70.
behind. I'm behind.
70 countries are doing this year because they're rolling this out internationally. And what they're going to do is they're going to do it here also. Let's listen to number two.
I'm announcing today that my administration will lead an international effort to enforce biological weapons convention, which is going to be meeting with the top leaders of the world by pioneering an AI verification system that everyone can trust. Hopefully the UN can play a constructive role, and it will also be one of the early projects under AI. Let's see how good it is, because a lot of people are saying it could be one of the great things ever, but it also can be dangerous, but it can be put to tremendous use and tremendous good, and this would be an example of that.
That's nice. That's our fearless leader, President Donald Trump, in his own inimitable style, rolling out an AI verification system. That's digital ID. So when they say it's not going to happen here, it's going to happen everywhere if we, the people, don't stand up and say, you know what? I don't think so.
And did he say bioweapon, though? Wasn't he talking about bioweapons?
He was talking about two ideas in the same paragraph.
Oh, nice.
Okay?
Okay.
Because this is what they're going to do. You see, now that's very interesting comment. What's one of our greatest fears? Bioweapons in the hands of terrorists.
So we're
going to say to our citizens, our government is going to say, like those two unfortunate National Guard members who were shot in Washington just before Thanksgiving. Remember, we were on with Minister Gap, and I said, I really don't want to get too excited about relaxing.
Yeah.
Because I think there could be some very serious things that's pretty serious when an illegal immigrant or an immigrant that doesn't have status. He came in with the Afghan deal when we withdrew out of Afghanistan, and 200,000 Afghanis came into the country, and they said they vetted them. Oh, sure, 200,000. Sure. You know what happened in Afghanistan? One of the biggest things, this is what I say, I wish we could have Adam Schwartzy on here. We can't. But Adam would tell us that one of the biggest scams that happened in Afghanistan was that American allied, U.S. military forces allied, or even on the payroll of the U.S. military, Afghan nationals would go to meetings and then detonate suicide bomb belts. And they were sitting at the table because they were on the payroll. And they would kill 20, 30 people in their jihad. And they actually were already vetted and were working for our CIA or for our DI, our Department of Defense, our DOD. So that was one of the biggest threats that happened in Afghanistan, sorting out who wasn't allied with the United States. And we brought 200,000 of these people right here. So one of those guys shot 2 National Guardsmen just before Thanksgiving. If you remember, one has passed away.
Mm-hmm. One's in critical condition. Wasn't I reading that that guy, they think that he also had connections working with the CIA?
He did work for the CIA.
Huh.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
So that connection
So
brought
what
him
President
over here.
Trump is going to show up when there's a really big terrorist problem, because it's coming. And, on Minnesota Speaks, Minnesota Lady and Lieutenant Alder are going to remember this. Do you remember when we were on the Spaces and there was a woman talking as if she was in the military, talking about 60,000 Americans dying in a giant terrorist event? And I said, wait, ma'am, wait, stop. What do you mean? And what does it mean to me on the day after? Because I was trying to drive her to talk about the digital ID. And she said, well, don't you care about 60,000 Americans dying? And I said, no, I don't. And everybody was shocked. Because again, strategy and tactics. The people in my house aren't going to die. I'll guarantee it. I might die, but they're not going to die. I'm into protecting my neighborhood. I can't defend people in Arkansas or Florida that get killed. I can't. So I don't care about that. My care is in what I can affect. That's my tactic. What can I affect? Who can I protect? And then I tried to ask her, well, what's going to happen the next day? What's going to happen the next day? She didn't have an answer. What's going to happen the next day is President Trump's going to show up on television and say, the only way we can protect the American people from these illegal terrorists is with digital ID.
Create the problem to then make the solution.
Oh, you're getting too educated here now. Start talking like that. So that's coming. Well, let's just keep on going. Let's play number 3 for fun.
Computer, request security procedure and access to Project Genesis summary.
Identify for retina scan.
Kirk, Admiral James T.
Security scan approved.
Summary, please.
Project Genesis, a proposal to the Federation.
Carol Marcus. Yes.
What exactly is Genesis? Well, put simply, Genesis is life from lifelessness. It is a process whereby molecular structure is reorganized at the subatomic level into life-generating matter of equal mass. Stage 1 of our experiments was conducted in the laboratory. Stage 2 of the series will be attempted in a lifeless underground. Stage 3 will involve the process on a planetary scale. It is our intention to introduce the Genesis device into a pre-selected area of a lifeless space body, a moon or other dead form. The device is delivered, instantaneously causing what we call the Genesis effect. Matter is reorganized with life-generating results. dead moon, a living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Fascinating.
The reformed moon simulated here represents the merest fraction of the Genesis potential, should the Federation wish to fund these experiments to their logical conclusion. When we consider the cosmic problems of population and food supply, the usefulness of this process becomes clear. This concludes our proposal. Thank you for your attention.
It literally is Genesis.
Power creation.
Have they proceeded with their experiments?
Well, the tape was made about a year ago, so I can only assume they've reached stage 2 by now.
But dear Lord, do you think we're intelligent enough to... Suppose... What if this thing we use where life already exists?
It would destroy such life in favor of its new matrix.
Its new matrix? Do you have any idea what you're saying?
I was not attempting to evaluate its moral implications, Doctor. As a matter of cosmic history, it has always been easier to destroy than to create.
Not anymore. Now we can do both at the same time. According to myth, the Earth was created in 6 days. Now, watch out. Here comes Genesis. We'll do it for you in 6 minutes.
I do not dispute that in the wrong hands...
In the wrong hands? Would you mind telling me whose the right hands, my logical friend? Are you by any chance in favor of these experiments?
Gentlemen, this isn't...
Really, Dr. McCoy, you must learn to govern your passions. They will be your undoing. Logic suggests...
Logic? My God, the man's talking about logic. We're talking about universal Armageddon. You green-blooded inhuman.
Bridge to Admiral Kirk. Admiral, sensors indicate a vessel in our area, closing fast.
What do you make of her?
It's one of ours, Admiral.
Genesis Project. Guess what, everybody? Our esteemed President, Donald J. Trump, signed an executive order just last Monday unleashing the Genesis mission. The Genesis mission. There it is right there for all of you to see. The mission is slightly different, but the ideas are about the same. The Genesis mission is the deployment of all the resources of the federal government of the United States to create an integrated AI technology. 40,000 scientists are deployed in this project. It's now part of the Department of Energy. If you remember on a previous podcast, we covered the fact that President Trump signed an executive order to create nuclear power stations on military bases all over the country. And guess what? They know exactly what they're doing. So he's out there pitching the digital ID. Thank you, President Trump. And now we got the Genesis Project. And you know what we all need to do as citizens? And let's not mince around about this. And they even say it. Let me just read you the beginning of this. I'll read you the first paragraph that President Trump signed as an executive order. Purpose. From the founding of our republic, scientific discovery and technological innovation have driven American progress and prosperity. Today, America is in a race for global technology dominance in the development of artificial intelligence, an important frontier of scientific discovery and economic growth. To that end, my administration has taken a number of actions to win that race, including issuing multiple executive orders and implementing America's AI Action Plan, which recognizes the need to invest in AI-enabled science to accelerate scientific advancement. In this pivotal moment, the challenges we face require a historic national effort, comparable in urgency and ambition to the Manhattan Project that was instrumental to our victory in World War II and was a critical basis for the foundation of the Department of Energy and its national laboratories. So what they're doing, I mean, they're being very honest about it. This is the Manhattan Project, which gave us what? Nuclear weapons. Isn't our life so much better that we all have nuclear weapons? Do you feel safe at night knowing that Mr. Spock has control of the nuclear weapons? Yeah. He's so logical. You know, this is where we're at. And I'm going to be very frank. I think this is awful. And of course, it's a race with the Chinese for military dominance. It's really not about economics. They just throw that in there because they think we're stupid.
I guess they're kind of telling the truth because it would help them in the long run. They're, yeah,
Right.
down the road.
Great. And so, as Bones said on Star Trek, who is capable of controlling and monitoring this technology?
When did this episode of Star Trek come out?
That was a movie from the age of William Shatner, I would say 80s.
It's really cool to me, really fascinating that that concept was discussed back then. The moral dilemma of, well, who is the right hands? Is anybody the right hands to give this power to?
Well, they made a big deal out of a retina scan. And because that technology wasn't around, it was like, wow, what's that?
Well, this reminds me, have you seen the movie, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, Gattaca? Gattaca?
I have seen it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about that movie when we're talking about digital ID.
It's
we're gonna have to look at. We're gonna have to see if some movie clips can be played on the podcast.
Well, yeah, go ahead and clip them. That's great. But my point is, we're careening down this road. We can have the AI for good, but we have to avoid the control grid that's being set up, and it is being set up. The digital ID is there. If you go take a look and read the Genius Act, which I urge, this executive order. Anybody can go to the whitehouse.gov website, and I urge you to do this. This is a tactic, even a strategy to be informed. And what's a tactic? Go to the source materials. I'm not saying trust me. It's right on the whitehouse.gov website. You can read this executive order, and it will either uplift you or terrify you, whatever the case may be. But it's here, the Genesis Project. And they're going to take what they get in terms of AI capabilities. And when you put 40,000 scientists to work in the entire laboratory system of the Department of Energy, we're talking about a big deal here now. They're going to merge all these databases together, and they're going to empower this AI. And what they want to do is they want to work on advanced manufacturing, biotechnology. Oh, that's a winner. Critical materials, nuclear fission and fusion energy, quantum information science, and semiconductors and microelectronics.
Another big point is the predictive models, in my opinion.
Right.
They're going to be running the AI to see what outcomes they can get for certain actions.
We're going to play a clip about that momentarily, but first I want to comment, because this is about the Jews tonight. Jews are very good at science, very good at math. They're very disproportionately represented in this cohort of scientists. There's no way of knowing how many of these 40,000 scientists are Jewish, but using Grok has come up with the idea that it's reasonable to estimate that 20 to 30% of the 40,000 scientists are Jewish. Why don't you just look up while we're talking? Yeah. What is the percentage of Jewish population in the United States? Because I think Jews are very overrepresented in this scientific cohort. In fact, Jewish participation in the fields of physics, material science, and engineering over time, 26 to 38% of the Nobel Prizes over time in these areas have gone to Jewish people.
So in 2020, the last consensus or a survey, 2.4.
2.4, yet in the scientific community that's going to be working on AI, scientists.
Yeah.
Jews in name only, they're ginos. Sorry if you happen to be a Jewish scientist working on this and you're putting filling on every day, you'd be a unicorn, okay? Because these two things don't go together. Kind of like oil and water.
Jewish people are some hard workers. They always land in these high positions.
Jewish people are well adapted to our current techno-scientific culture. Anyhow, I just throw that in there to let you know what's going on. And my statement is, these people are culturally Jewish, but if you're praying 3 times a day and you've dedicated your life to serving the Lord, you're probably not a PhD in physics. Probably. It's possible. See, if you're out there and you're hearing me, you can contact me, and you can criticize what I'm saying because it's a broad generalization, and these are always dangerous to make. But let's just, when you're talking about predictive models, let's listen to number 5 and let you know where we're heading with this. 5 main steps to a world government.
You don't even have to have elections anymore because you can already predict and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be.
Can you stop that, please? Let's play it one more time, because you were saying predictive models are so important. Look at what they're working on. Hey, there's no reason to have elections. We already know what you think. Well, how do they know what we think? Because they're going to be monitoring everything we do, every website we go to, every text we send, every telephone conversation. They're going to know more about us than we know about ourselves.
Yeah.
Play it again. 5 steps to world government.
You don't even have to have elections anymore because you can already predict and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be.
The first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model.
Stop. That's the Genesis Project. That's what they're doing. They're taking all scientific databases controlled in the country by different scientific verticals, and they're merging them into one database to teach AI at a much more accelerated rate. That's what they're doing. That's Ellison from Oracle. Let's continue.
We've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country.
We have a lack of global governance. Right. If we look at the UN, if we look at the G8, at the international organizations, they are not enough. We need more institutions to develop global rules.
Oh, stop. What we need is more rules. We need more law.
Yeah.
We need
across
more,
a global scale.
Global scale, because we all are doing the same thing. We all have to have the same rule book. Because after all, we're just digitized beings that go from birth to death to be monetized. So why not have one set of rules so we all go on the exact same assembly line? Let's continue to number 4.
Substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations.
The idea of the social credit is to monetize everything, to give value to every single thing you do in life. It has positive potential in some regards.
So, those 5 steps. Does this sound like a conspiracy theory to you, or does it sound like somebody's plan?
Yeah, it sounds like well, when you know who these people are too, and you know that they're tied in with all the money. Yeah.
The World Economic Forum is Spectre in the James Bond movies. That's what it is. When James Bond, the guy that, wrote the original James Bond novels, he was former MI6. This thing goes back to the 60s. And he was trying to tell everybody, hey, there's a group of really wealthy people out there. They're no good. And, here they are, and we've been bearing up, and I've been hearing this about myself for 20 years at least. Oh, you're a conspiracy. I still hear it. I still have people tell me all the time I'm out there. I'm saying, out there? My God, these people are in our face with their plan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the plan. They got the plan. There's the plan. 5 steps to one world government. Did you notice that last week President Trump discontinued the U.S. penny?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a couple weeks ago they had minted the last one.
Yeah, why is that?
Yeah. They say it's because it costs too much to produce the penny.
And next it's going to be too much to make nickels and then quarters.
My question is how are you supposed to, when I'm counting change now at a gas station, if pennies are gone, am I just supposed to round up to the 5th cent?
Yes, you are.
Huh. Okay.
Pretty soon we're going to be rounding up to the digital on your telephone.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. Well, there's ways to fight this. There is there's strategies. Like, I carry cash. I try to pay as many of my bills as I can in cash. Oh, that gums their shit up.
It's getting really hard, too, around here because everywhere, at least in the cities area, it's becoming card only. Like, a lot of places just don't even accept cash anymore.
Yeah, great. I don't shop there.
Yeah.
No, seriously. If you go to a store and they don't take cash, don't shop there. Don't shop there. If we don't exercise our power as sovereign citizens to make choices that are not convenient. Well, hey, you traded your freedom for convenience and safety. That's what it is. So I carry cash. I write checks. I do no auto pays. I do no pay by wire. I don't do that stuff. I gum their system up. The more the world stays politically fragmented, thank you, Jay Bartlett, for bringing this up, the harder it is to have one set of rules. As Klaus Schwab is saying, we need more rules. We need global rules. No. Let's stay fragmented. So in this sense, President Trump is a little tricky. He's rolling out the control grid, but you know what he's really saying? You know what? We're having a control grid, but we're running it.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. You know, how about no control grid? Nobody runs anybody else. Is that a little bit too hard for people to figure out? I'm a free citizen. You're a free citizen. Don't step on my blue suede shoes. Anything else is okay with me. Don't step on my blue suede shoes. That's my limit. Here comes winter. In winter, good tires aren't a luxury. They're a necessity for safety. At TireGet.com, getting your winter tires is quick, easy, and priced right. With TireGet.com, you order online, install right by your house, and stay safe on the road this winter season. So we keep the world fragmented, which is good. Not one, but many. You can have technological sabotage. You can adopt privacy tools. Have your own VPN. I'm going to do that. That's a great idea. Privacy coins, encrypted messengers, encryption. That's a great one. Don't let them know what we're. Telegram, they threw that guy in jail.
Or did they?
They did.
Wow.
In France. Yes, he did. Keep that cash in your pocket.
I think we're missing a really big one.
What's that?
The biggest strategy right now that everybody can do, learn how to grow your own food or get your own food.
Fantastic.
Because unfortunately, yes, the VPNs can help, but if this goes as far as the whole system collapses, we got to be able to survive on our own. That's knowing how to build a fire, knowing how to get your own food, knowing your community. It's almost like back in school when they would teach you, sit down with your family and make a plan on if your house is on fire and where to go and where to meet. You kind of have to do that now.
There is a movement in the world of people that are saying form your own communities and drop out.
Yeah.
They can do their deal. They're going to do their deal. It's what we do with our deal. I mean, the way to beat these people is not, we're going to have a revolution. There's going to be war. Come on. I mean, people are not in the revolutionary mode.
No.
Not in this country, anyhow.
A lot of them think they are, but yeah, they're not.
When
ready
it comes down to giving your life for the cause.
Yeah.
Hey, I know how many people are traveling with me and Royce.
Well, I think about it like this. I just recently had this experience where I dropped my daughter off at this school, and they were talking about how the curriculum this week is living in your nation, and the teachers just kind of started snickering and laughing about it, thinking it was dumb. And I just started thinking about, man, these kids are looking up to these teachers, and they're gonna just think that America's a joke. How do you ever expect anybody to defend a country that they think is a joke?
You know what? I'm going to alter my script and just quickly work through these last couple of ideas about, what we can do. We can have legal pushback using the 1st, 4th, 9th, 10th Amendments on this control grid. And we can treat the digital ID the way many other societies treat military service. Just don't comply. Non-compliance. And I was going to talk about Minnesota politics for a minute, but before we get there, because you brought up the teachers, education. We're going to go off schedule because you were talking about what? Teachers snickering about what?
Just teaching about their nation to a group of 5 and 6-year-olds.
And that you watched the teachers laughing about it, right?
Yeah.
And how'd that make you feel?
It made me feel really sad, especially this last Sunday I went to the Hmong Festival. So to see the difference, I was just telling David that I was so impressed with these kids because they had groups of 6-year-olds that were doing choreographed dances that were just mind blowing. And to me, it's just a little bit of cultural pride. And to think that the average American child doesn't have that. They don't have any cultural pride. So,
and you were sad.
I was very sad.
You know what I am? Furious.
Yeah.
Because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Okay, so education, I'm going to read you something that I came across since I sat in the solo chair last. The American Federation of Teachers, which is the teachers union, announced a partnership with the World Economic Forum.
Great.
To develop a curriculum focused on good jobs and careers in U.S. manufacturing. This initiative, announced by AFT President Randy Weingarten in July 2025, aims to equip students with skills needed for a changing workforce with specific focus on manufacturing jobs.
Factory workers.
Goal, to create a curriculum that prepares students for good jobs and solid careers in U.S. manufacturing. Announcement. The partnership was announced by AFT President Randy Weingarten at the AFT's Teach Conference in July 2025. Focus. The curriculum is intended to provide students with skills necessary to succeed in a rapidly changing world beyond just good test taking. Context. The announcement drew criticism from some groups, including school choice advocates, who expressed concern about the influence of a foreign organization on U.S. public school content. Well, since we're in a fourth turn-in and everything's just going to fall apart, let's talk about the fundamental building block of our society, and that's education. And it is vile and wrong. And I've just had it with this now. Remember we had Pam Altendorf on, who was elected, and she's a Minnesota state legislator, and I said something critical of, teachers, and she got scared and said our teachers are great. Oh, no, they're not great. They're not. I'm sorry, teachers. Some of you are great. Most of you suck. And it's not your fault. You've been brainwashed in your own education.
Mm-hmm.
We want our children to be healthy first. And what does health mean? Do you know how to build a fire?
Yeah.
Do you know how to grow your own food?
For the most
Do
part.
you know how to heal yourself if you become injured? Do you know the difference between an injury and something that you have to go seek attention for? Do you know how to maintain your well-being over a lifetime? Do you know how to compress your morbidity and extend your longevity? None of that is taught in school. That is only taught in secret societies. And that is vile. As President Kennedy said, we Americans detest secret societies. We're an open society, which, of course, George Soros grabs that idea, the open society, and turns it into worldwide communism. These people are smart, these teachers, not the guy that or the girl that's teaching your young daughter in first grade. They may or may not be smart, but the PhD that taught them, they're smart.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. I don't necessarily even blame the teachers because it's, that group of class, when they grow up, if some of them turn the teachers, they're going to have the same exact reaction when they're told time to teach about America because they were brought up that way.
Right.
They don't have any pride in their country, so why would they ever take it seriously when teaching it?
And this Randy Weingarten, who's the president of this union, has been president for 17 years.
Ugh.
17 years. If this woman was worth a shit, we'd see some change. But in reality, things are still getting worse. And her entire address really was about the future makers. The teachers are the future makers. And they are. And look at the future they're making. They're in league with the World Economic Forum, which is Spectre. I have my stepson, Bryden, is going to high school.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too off script. I'm going to talk about him at the end when we talk about the Groypers. But I actually pay attention to what they're teaching them. And they're teaching him stuff that is completely made up. And he doesn't know the difference. He's 16 years old. And he's got to pass a test. So he's got to learn the material. It's just awful. Anyhow, I'm just going to read you a couple of Randy Weingarten's address to the teachers of America in this giant teachers union. And she says, I'm just going to read some highlights. To the teachers, you create the community in our classrooms, our schools, our neighborhoods. You are our nation's future makers. And this is what Trump thinks about our country. He's taking food from children in need. He's ripping health care away from millions of Americans. He's eliminating good jobs in clean energy and manufacturing. He's defunding public education and making it harder for low-income students to afford college. He's making Americans sicker, hungrier, and poorer, and he's adding trillions to the deficit. That's rather political. That's the head of the union. So apparently our union is not a neutral arbiter of passing on information. It's politics.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? F off, you people, with this. We have to get some courage here in our local communities and stand up to this. I'm not saying we should be teaching right-wing education. I'm not saying we should be teaching left-wing education. We should be teaching our children how to live healthy lives, compressing their morbidity and extending their longevity. That is the basic skill a human being needs to live a good life. They don't teach that in school. It's not even in the curriculum. So the most important thing, how to stay away from doctors and lawyers, they don't teach it. That they don't teach. How to stay away from the system. The schools, if they were constructed the way I would like them to be constructed, would teach every child to stay out of the grips of professionals. Stay away from them. Keep healthy. Learn how to have good relationships so you avoid divorce, and et cetera, and so on. But that's not part of the curriculum. The government is attacking the foundations of our humanity: healthcare, food security, education, research to cure deadly diseases. Oh, boo-hoo. Social Security to keep the elderly and the vulnerable out of destitution. Masked agents are disappearing people. Yes, disappearing them. People just trying to do an honest day's work. We're not talking about hardened criminals. Even our students aren't safe. Like in the high school where the student was arrested by us on his way to volleyball practice, and the teen was detained as he headed off to a school field trip. So many Americans are anxious and struggling to get by. We need an agenda of affordability, opportunity, and dignity. But we're going to get that being in league with the World Economic Forum, aren't we? What a bullshit story. A pathway to a better life for everyone. Randy, if you're hearing this by some miracle, please come on the show. I'd love to talk to you. We need an agenda. Yet Trump is making life harder for everyone. Well, you know what? When you're down the rabbit hole where we are here, getting out of this is going to be hard. You want to keep safety and convenience? Give up your freedom. Just give it up and just watch cartoons and smoke dope. Okay, that's where we're going to go. If we're going to change this, it's going to be hard work. We've lost our ability to do basic human things. Correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, great.
I like to think of it, we've been domesticated. If you think of the difference between a wild animal and a zoo animal, we've been domesticated. We're
That
the
is a
zoo
nice
animal.
way of saying it. Very kind. And you know who wants us to be domesticated? The women.
I thought
Sorry,
you were going to say
ladies.
the Jews.
Well, the Jews too. The Jews are the ultimate group that has become the arbiters and evolved into this domesticated culture.
Mm.
But the ladies want this. They don't want to have to depend on their man for safety or their man for food. They're liberated. They have equal rights. And I agree with this completely, that they're sovereign citizens. But, you know, to have that sovereignty and then say, hey, you know what? You're a little bit toxic there, Mr. Penn. A little bit too masculine. Come on. Really? You're a little bit coarse. Somebody told me I'm like a butcher. I'm like a butcher? Well, I could be like a butcher, but I haven't slaughtered anybody recently. You know, let me tell you, ladies, if you're listening, and men, if you're listening, I'm a peaceful person by choice. If you're peaceful because you don't have another gear, you're a coward. And that's really important. We need our men to be men. We're under attack. This is a color revolution. Our lives are under threat. It's not going to get solved by being domesticated. This is going to take some stones, some courage to stand up to the people that are removing our freedom, which is precisely why the Republican Party of Minnesota doesn't like me, because I don't want domesticated politicians.
Yeah.
Because they're domesticated. They're on the payroll. If you're on the payroll and we elect people that are on the payroll, we're not going to solve this problem. And I believe in miracles. I'm just going to leave it at that. So our school system needs a massive rework. And because President Trump is changing things, here's what Randy Weingarten has to say. We must fight at the bargaining table and in the streets. So here she is pitching insurrection to the teachers. Oh, I just love this. The American Federation of Teachers, the United Federation of Teachers, and the New York State United Teachers have partnered with Micron on an advanced technology framework to help high school students hone the foundational skills necessary for career success in the booming semiconductor industry. And we are partnering with the World Economic Forum to create a curriculum that will lead to good jobs and solid careers in U.S. manufacturing. Hey, that's your teachers, okay? That's your teachers. That's our teachers. That's what they're up to. And they're doing that for the good of my children.
I'm hoping soon. I keep bringing up the idea of homeschooling my daughter to my... I just keep bringing up that concept, and I'm hoping
I brought
it
up at my kitchen table, and I was bashed by Bryden's mother, who said that that's ridiculous because the outcomes are so much worse for homeschooled children. Actually, the data is quite different, in my opinion. Of course, lies, damn lies, and statistics. You can make statistics to say anything, which brings me to Minnesota, a little event that happened. Tanner, under number 1 clip, the Minnesota GOP House Caucus, could you put up this letter with all these signatures? You're going to find that, let people see it. You see that? That popped up on X, and this is a letter from the Minnesota GOP House Caucus, writing a letter to the Honorable U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen. And dear Attorney Rosen goes on, and they're talking about the sprawling fraud that has become endemic under Governor Walz. Failed leadership is troubling enough for Minnesota taxpayers. And this is a letter asking for the investigation of the fraud. And, it's a marketing letter. This doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's just marketing. It's an opportunity for Minnesota House members to go on the record and saying, yes, we want the fraud investigated. And I looked at the list. A lot of people signed that, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? A lot of people didn't sign it. And I noticed that right away. And I thought to myself, I'm calling some of these people out, particularly the one in my own backyard, Andrew Myers, who didn't sign it. The same guy that said, we're going to use AI to determine who can own a handgun, didn't sign this letter asking the feds to investigate this fraud. And then Danny Nadeau, who's also in my district, CD3, he didn't sign it. Other people didn't sign it. I'm leaving some names out. And boy, I got some flack on this one. Wow. My good friend, Mr. Stan Hamilton, the executive of the CD3 board, called me and excoriated me about this. Good evening, Stan. I know you're listening. And I say this in all goodwill. Stan and I are friends, and he has every right to call me because he's my friend and scream at me. And he did. And he reminded me of things that I did. Like one time, he said, don't you ever make mistakes, David? I said, well, I try not to. He said, well, one time you stood me up for breakfast, and I did. And I do that because I have a very busy schedule, and it was an awful mistake. And Stan, I apologize to you publicly. No one should stand anybody else up. And in fact, my personal training in my life was, you can't be late. So standing somebody up is ridiculous. And I've since gotten much better at my calendar because my calendar is full every day.
Yeah.
And now I'm much better. And I apologize to you, Stan, from my heart. That is an awful thing to stand somebody up. And I feel terrible about it. And Stan called me out on that. And he also said, I promised him I wasn't going to run against him in CD3. And he said, you lied. And well, that's not really a lie, Stan. Circumstances changed. And I ran against you because I had to, because of the way things went down politically here in CD3. But he had, criticisms of me calling out Andrew Myers and Danny Nadeau for not signing this letter. And Walter Hudson popped up, who was a friend of the show, and said, there's reasons why people don't sign. They don't get the memo, or they are out of town. And then one of our followers and one of our community participants, Jason, came out and he said, did Ron Kresha sign it? And I said, no, he didn't. And he sent an email to Ron Kresha and said, Ron, why didn't you sign this letter? And Kresha wrote back, I support the letter and call for action by the DOJ. My signature did not appear on this letter because I was traveling and not able to physically sign the letter. Some people use their signature stamps, but I like to actually sign to show my support. So Stan told me that there was reasons that Danny didn't sign. There was reasons that Andrew didn't sign. Ron said he had a reason. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say to Andrew Myers and Danny Nadeau and Elliot Engen and Ron Kresha, people that didn't sign, if you had reasons, legitimate reasons, which I'm not in your head and I don't know, I apologize for calling you out. But I'm going to make it, from my opinion, the last time I'm going to be apologetic about this. And I'm going to tell you why. There's something new going on here in Minnesota. It's called Minnesota Speaks. It's called Free People Radio. It's called a community of Republicans that is gaining people every day that are actually paying attention to what's going on in the state politically. This is unprecedented. I mean, the insiders, Tanner, the insiders, they always paid attention. The insiders, inside pool. But we've never had in my lifetime thousands of citizens and hopefully tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of Minnesota citizens watching every move on that chessboard. And let's not do this again. I actually want to have the back of every elected representative. I want to support you. I want unity. I want us to grow together as a community. So I posted up, and I did this in respect to Walter Hudson, because he said, sometimes I miss him too. And I'm just going to say, please, let's stop doing this. Because we citizens that are watching now, we can't tell if you're on vacation. We can't tell why you didn't sign. And when we see a letter as important as, please investigate this fraud, and you don't sign, we start to ask ourselves, why didn't you sign? And then, Maga Jesse posts up an article, because Maga Jesse Smith, who's a friend of the show, he's watching, and he says, you know what? The fraud was funded by a bill, and the three people that didn't sign here, Elliot Engen, Andrew Myers, and Danny Nadeau, were the only three Republicans that supported the bill that funded the fraud. It's just a coincidence. It's a coinky-dink. It happened. It happens, right? I don't know. So see, when we don't know Andrew and Danny and Stan, could we put this behind and say, I'm sorry, I don't know your motivations, I'm very sorry, but please don't let this happen again. If the speaker asks people to sign a letter and your name's not on there, I'm going to assume it's not on in the future. This one, it's a pass. But in the future, let me tell you how it works in business, in case some of you have never been in business, like you're a professional lawyer and became a politician, let's just say. In business, we use something called DocuSign. This phone, all my email comes to this phone. I could be in the Himalayas, I'm going to get my email. When I get my email and I can DocuSign, I can sign a document from everywhere in the world. So Representative Kresha, as much as you like to be a hermeneutic and sign things, that doesn't work at the speed of politics. There's no reason not to sign unless you actually have a reason, like you're catering to other constituents in your district. And I just want to know that in the future. So I'm going to say again, for about the umpteenth time, I apologize, Stan, because I don't know what these people are thinking. And they're going to say, who are you, asshole, to tell us how to run our business? Well, I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm a Minnesota citizen, and I'm your constituent, and I want our processes in government where we're bleeding out billions of dollars because of lack of control. We're going to blame it on the Somalis. How do billions of dollars disappear? A fundamental lack of control. Business practices, best business practices do not exist in Minnesota state government, or this kind of fraud could not be possible. So since I know that as a business person, because I'm audited every year, and the auditor comes in and says, do you know of any fraud? How are your fraud detection systems? Let us audit them. Well, nobody's doing that in Minnesota, and that's my money getting robbed, and I don't like it. So I would like us all to adopt a higher level of best practices so that we can actually, all of us, the citizens, the elected representatives, the administrators, the bureaucrats, everybody is going to have to go through a massive evolution of our systems. And is that too much to ask, Tanner?
What you just said there, honestly, most would assume the government is already doing.
Well, obviously they're not.
They're not.
Obviously, because the evidence is, you know, we're not talking about $50 getting robbed. Like somebody's got a credit card and they put $50 of gas on it. Okay, that's petty fraud. This is a massive betrayal of the Minnesota citizens. And this $2 billion, or whatever the number is, this is just the tip of the iceberg. My greatest fear is that we're going to stop before we even get to the bottom of this pot. I don't know what's at the bottom of it. Is this foreign policy? Is this a CIA operation? Or is this just a bunch of people robbing money? Where's this money really going? You know what's great about money? It can be tracked. You know, it can be tracked. And you know, they got a whole system in this community, Islamic community, of moving money around off the books because they know how to avoid the digital ID grid. They know how to do it. So it might not be easy to track it, but you can get some of these people and sweat them out and find out what's happening here. And that's your job. Kristen Robbins, you're in charge of the fraud committee. There's no fraud that needs to be deep-sixed because it might not look good. Let's get to the bottom of this. And while we're working on it, let's look at United Healthcare and healthcare policy in general. Let's look at Xcel Energy and Xcel Energy's policies and decarbonization and executive compensation and state subsidies. Let's do things like, let's look at the University of Minnesota. Let's look at the NGOs that bring these immigrants here, Lutheran Social Services, Catholic Social Services. Let's really get into it, okay? Let's not go a tiny bit into it because it feels good to pick on a community. You know, let's not pick on, these people are criminals, right? They need to go to jail. But let's just keep going because, you know, we're paying $72 billion of our tax money is going to fund this state. What if 40% of it is bull? How would that be? And is that impossible? Well, elected representatives, I'm sorry you don't like me and you don't like being called out like this, but I'm a Minnesota taxpayer, and guess what? Thousands and thousands of Minnesota constituents are hearing me say this. You know what they're going to say? They're going to say, how can $1 billion go missing? Who's running that deal? I mean, $1 billion? And we're going to blame it on some people. No. This is a system failure, systemic failure. And to fix a systemic failure, let's start with baby steps. Let's get our emails on our telephones, on our smartphones, get our emails on here. Let's use DocuSign. And when the speaker says, here's a letter, sign it, because if you don't sign it from this day forward, I'm going to assume you have a different agenda than the Minnesota House Republican Caucus. Am I being unreasonable?
No, I don't think so at all. I think it's like you said, in your business, it's certain protocol that you have to follow. Why is our government not doing it when we're talking about billions of dollars? Like $2 billion sounds small, but when you think
sounds small, $2 billion.
When you're saying two, like a lot of people don't comprehend how much money that is.
Oh, you mean the two?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you just say 2 billion, like so many. Yes, we understand it's a big number, but I don't think we understand how big of a number.
Well, you know, we use this metaphor. $1 million, $100. You take $100 bills and you stack them back to back. $1 million is about as tall as this chair. $1 billion stacked like that, $100 bills, it's as tall as the IDS building. Yeah. So we got 2 IDS buildings so far.
Yeah, just what we know.
Just what we know. And then we got Alex Plekish. Alex Plekish, the chairman of our party. How you doing, Alex? Happy New Year to you. Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. I get a letter from Alex Plekish, and he's pitching the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. Alex, you're running the Republican Party of Minnesota, MinGOP. I'm not interested in the United States Marine Corps. I want to see strategy and tactics to win in Minnesota. What I get is bullshit about Marine Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force recruiting. That's not relevant. It's irrelevant, Alex. And it is deeply supportive of candidates who actually come from the military. It's a subtle putting your thumb on the scales. Just like they're trying to get rid of Brett Bussman in CD7 right now, I hear this week. You know, you all keep it up. Keep it up. Just keep it up. I think President Kennedy said something like, those that block evolution guarantee revolution. And that's what you people are doing. In your efforts to block the evolution of politics in Minnesota, you're guaranteeing a revolution. You're in business with the revolutionaries. But of course, the ones of you that are the smartest know that. Okay. And speaking of the military, just to let you know what country you live in, all this posted up on the same day. $18.82 billion given to, guess who? Guess who got $18.82 billion in the Federal Register last week? Can you guess, Tanner?
Israel?
Israel.
Nice.
Fantastic. That's $18 billion. I wonder how much fraud's involved in that $18 billion.
Yeah.
Here's $740 million for guess who? Egypt, their enemy. Of course, they have a peace treaty, but that's hanging by a thread. Here's $300 million for, who's this for? Australia. Let the Australians get their straw down into the drink. They get $300 million. Here's $121 million for Denmark. Here's $70 million for the government of Finland. Yeah, I know Finland. $70 million. Here's $65 million for Iraq. Iraq? I guess we're keeping everybody on the payroll, Tanner. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Here's $600 million for Slovakia. $5 for anybody that knows where Slovakia is on the map. Just kidding. Okay. Here's $3.5 billion for the Republic of Korea. Here's $774 million. Guess this. Oh, Israel's back at the trough. Another $774 million. You're looking at these as I'm going through them, right? Yeah. Stunning, isn't it? This is all one day in the Federal Register. Here is $300 million for Taipei. That would be Taiwan. I'm sure that made the Chinese government happy. Here's a small $115 million taste for Belgium. Here's $100 million. Oh, another $100 million for Australia. It's a good day for Australia, $400 million. Here's 61.1. Oh, Israel again. 61 million here. Wow. Israel's got a great haul on this run. Here's $583 million for Israel again.
Oh my gosh.
Israel's cleaning up. Here's $138 million for the Czech Republic. You know, we should have a contest. Who can find these countries on the map? You know, this is your taxpayers. This is your money going to countries, and you have no idea. Do you know where the Czech Republic is on the map?
No.
How about Slovakia?
No.
See? And you're paying for it.
Yeah.
Great. Maybe you should study your geography.
Oh, yeah. No, I failed that in school.
Here's $110 million for Tunisia. Do you know what continent Tunisia is in?
No.
Great. You see, this is how dumb we are.
Yeah.
We're funding stuff we don't even know where the countries are. And Tanner's pretty smart. Here's $102 million for Israel again. Man, Israel's making out like a burglar on this deal. And we're focused on some Somalis. And we're up to about $22 billion here for the. I wonder how much money gets carrying charges on this deal. I mean, what's the margin on? See, Israel's not paying for this stuff. We're giving it to them. We're paying for it.
So when we're saying these dollar amounts, are we giving them cold hard cash for?
No,
weapon?
We're giving them defense
weapons,
yeah, or technology, software, whatever. And there's an American company right here in Minnesota that develops those weapons, and we pay for the weapons, and they go off to Israel. And I wonder what the profit margin is at this company. I wonder how much money they're making on this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So here you and me are, we're struggling to survive, and somebody that's working for a defense contractor is making out like Somali.
Yeah. Oh, it's weird too because this was the administration of Doge and everything and like cutting government spending, and now we're looking at all this government spending that has not been talked about. Well, a few people have talked about this actually.
Well, we're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
Here's $2.8 billion for Saudi Arabia. We're not done. This is all one day.
Oh my gosh, we're still going.
Here's $5 billion for Germany. Germany. on the front lines there with those awful Russians. Got to keep them in the cash. $150 million for Japan. That's one day in the Federal Register last week. I downloaded all that from the same day in the Federal Register.
No wonder your script was so thick.
Well, hey, this is just the way it is. We can't get to the news. I'm just going to spin through here real quick and just see if there's anything in here that is so noteworthy, it's worthy of attention. And the Dan Schultz, I'm going to say, come to Minnesota Speaks on Thursday night, 7 p.m. There's a strategy for organizing Minnesota. Find out where your precinct is. Go to the Secretary of State website, SOSMIN, right here in Minnesota or whatever state you're in. Find out what precinct you're in. Where are you? And start organizing your local community. How do you do it? Meet your neighbors.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Peer-to-peer engagement. And then have the courage to stand up and say, do you know that in England, in Britain, the prime minister of the country stood up? I actually have the clip. There's this crazy podcast, the Professor Penn podcast, and the guy played it. You know, I was so concerned. I actually ran that clip through AI to make sure it wasn't constructed because it's so bold. You can't work in England if you don't have a digital ID by the end of this parliament, is what he said.
And when's the end of that parliament?
I don't know, but it's soon. Parliaments don't last long.
Okay.
So a couple years, a year, who knows? And you know what? The British people are standing up against this.
Good. Good.
Right.
Wow. The British?
The British are standing up.
Wow.
Okay. And if we don't stand up here, you're going to get the stamp on your ass too. So, you know, we're going to get organized. We're going to send out this link. We're going to repost the podcast because, you know, the algos don't help us. And when we have a good thumbnail like the Jews, you know, with a great title and a great picture, hey, we get a lot of views. But, you know, nothing's going to help this podcast more. Like Minnesota Lady always reposts my podcast. Thank you, Minnesota Lady. Thank you, Aldo. Thank you, WASP Society. You know, the people that are reposting this, Chaz, thank you. Reverend Tim, reposted. Thank you. I'll repost your stuff. Let's build our digital community. Because guess what? It's a strategy that's working today. Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I did not hear
Her
that.
last day in Congress is January 5th. She quit. She said, this is a classic. She goes, I refuse to be a battered wife. Talking about President Trump, because President Trump battered her. Said that she is Marjorie Trader Brown.
Was this after she was one of the few people that came out and
Yes.
said we need to stop sending money to Israel.
And she was also on the Let's Release the Epstein files.
And now she's the battered wife.
She resigned from Congress.
Wow. Kind of shows you that that blows my mind.
She actually is a woman of some depth, agree with her or not. And she is not done in politics. She is what we would call this as a strategic redeployment. President Trump writes, Marjorie Taylor Brown, because of plummeting poll numbers and not wanting to face a primary challenger with a strong Trump endorsement, where she would have no chance of winning, has decided to call it quits. She got on the wrong side of El Capitano. Wow. You know, and if you notice, I try not to criticize President Trump too much because he's the leader of the band here. But I'm getting a little bit more critical every podcast because this digital ID thing and cryptocurrency, CBDCs, and AI, which he's all three supporting with great vigor, this is the game. The rest of it is noise. This is the signal. The control grid is the signal. I don't know. Maybe he'll be like Darth Vader at the end of Star Wars and throw the Emperor down the shaft. Who knows? That's certainly what the Q people think. It's all part of the plan. I personally think that the plan is only going to be malleable if we, the people, stand up, organize, and say, go bite a hog in the ass. TireGet.com, where convenience meets the road. Why make buying tires complicated? With TireGet.com, it's simple. TireGet.com, one site, a few clicks, and the tires of your choice are shipped to an installer right by your house. Bunch of Democrat lawmakers stood up and told the military to disobey illegal orders. That's right on the edge of insurrection. But now we're going to get to the part of the podcast that I have been thinking about and talking about and worried about, and that's the Jewish people and Jewish people here in the United States of America. The Jews, you know, as an American-born Jew, let me get centered because this kind of conversation is heavy. First of all, I'm a Jewish American, and my identity and how I think about my identity has changed tremendously over the course of my lifetime. I cannot say that my experience is typical of most American Jews because I have really had unique experiences. The Jewish people that came to this country came to escape persecution and anti-Semitism, mostly in Europe. And that migration started at the beginning of the country. You know that there was Jews in this country at the founding of the country in 1776?
Yeah.
I mean, Jews have been here from the way back.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's talk that Christopher Columbus was actually Jewish.
Say that again?
I've been hearing talk that Christopher Columbus was possibly Jewish.
Say that again?
I'm hearing talk that Christopher Columbus was actually Jewish.
Say what?
Christopher Columbus was Jewish.
Okay. So, Jews, and we were talking about the scientists, 20 or 30% of the scientists that have been deployed in the Genesis project are probably Jewish, according to Grok, when only about 2%, 3% of America is Jewish. And Jews are way overrepresented in all of the professions in medicine. You know this. I mean, there's no medicine, law, Hollywood. Jewish people are very exceptional. Not because we're exceptional genetically, we're exceptional culturally, because there's such a great emphasis on education. And I certainly grew up in that kind of environment. Both of my parents were highly educated. My father taught at the University of Minnesota for 50 years. My mother was a lawyer. And, academic excellence wasn't, it was just expected. I was just expected to be the best student in my school. And I was. And somewhere along the line, because I'm a little different, I decided that I wanted to dunk a basketball, which is a decidedly un-Jewish pursuit. I decided I wanted to be able to defend myself, which is also not generally speaking in America. Of course, in Israel, those sons of are badasses. A lot of Jewish people in Israel killed their first Arab at about 13, 14 years old. That's not unusual, particularly if you read the biography of the leaders of the country, like the biography of Ariel Sharon, where he admits to killing his first Arab when he's a early young teenager. And so, I looked out at those cousins of mine that were in Israel, because I had first cousins that went to Israel, and they were in the army, and I thought, man, I was embarrassed. I was really, truly embarrassed. So I said, okay, I'm going to get good with this stuff. And I pursued it with great vigor. It took me down an entirely different path in life than had been laid out for me. But Jewish people, it's becoming revealed that Jewish people are holding a certain place in American political culture and in American culture. And it's not where I'm at as what I would call an American firster. And when I say America first, here's what that means to me personally. I want a republic, not a democracy. I want a republic that's based on a creator granting me unalienable rights. I want the smallest government possible. I want to avoid foreign entanglements. I do not want a worldwide military empire, which America has turned into. And it turned into that because of the way this country was at one time formatted with great freedom. And with great freedom comes great creativity. And with great creativity comes great scientific and technological prowess and great economic prowess. Creativity, which of course, now that we're in charge of everything, let's not have any more creativity because now our government is socialist. We say we're living in a republic or a democracy. We're living in a socialist country. It's already socialist. Where are the Jews in all of this? My people. My people. My people have an anointing not because we're chosen, but because we choose to believe in God. That's what it is to be a Jew, a descendant of Israel, which is another name for Jacob. Do you know the story of Jacob?
Not fully, but I did know that, yeah.
I mean, there's the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Mhm.
And Jacob, kind of started out as a trickster. We don't have time for the whole story. And through a life of repentance, he eventually became the progenitor of all the Jewish tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel, are from his loins. And he became known as Israel. He actually, and there's, theological debate about this. He wrestled an angel. Some people say he wrestled with God. And this is the idea of what it is to be Jewish, to be part of the nation of Israel, is you're always wrestling with God. You're in a relationship with God. You're focused on your relationship with God. It's what is most important in your life. Well, if you're a PhD in physics and you're working on the Genesis project, that's not the most important thing in your life. Why I'm not that person is because I was raised by very religious Jewish people. I had them in my life, and they had a tremendous influence on me when I was very young, and they opened up something in my mind which made me not materialistic, but more spiritual. So that's just me. And there's millions of people like me. And I'm sure some of them put on filling every day, pray every day, and they're doctors and lawyers, and they have a way of balancing that out, whatever it is. And that's their path, and they're American citizens, and they're sovereigns of their own life, and they have every right to do that. The Jews that came here came to escape. The majority of them escaped either Bolshevik tyranny, communist tyranny, or white Russian tyranny, Ukrainian tyranny, or Nazi tyranny. That created a giant migration to the United States. For example, our ex-Senator Rudy Boschwitz, his family left Germany to escape the Nazis. Great. Everybody's got a story like that. There's a argument. Was there a Holocaust, or was the numbers overstated? If it's 6 million or 2 million, systematic butchering of a people, genocide, why are we arguing over the numbers?
Yeah.
I mean, really, this is up that we're arguing over these numbers. There was a genocide, and why I know it is, people I was related to had tattoos on their bodies, and they told me what happened to them. So a personal recount of somebody in my life in the 1960s, when I was old enough to listen to it, which gave me post-traumatic stress disorder. That's more important to me than what some historian is telling me now. I'm just sorry. I mean, the oral tradition matters. What happens to a people when they're systematically destroyed? And we played a clip on here. Hitler said, if there's a war in Europe, I can promise you only one thing, that European Jewry would be destroyed. And he kept his promise. It was. This thing, when I was young, the nation of Israel and the concept of never again got merged. Some Jews came to the United States. Many Jews came to the United States. And like my family came, they knew they were coming for religious freedom and economic freedom. They knew they could go to Israel. They didn't want to hang out with the socialists. This is my grandfather, who was a black hat. Prayed 3 times a day, put on tefillin every day. He was not interested in world domination. I knew him well. The thought never ran through his mind. He owned a small fruit distributing company. Small. Never got rich. He barely had enough money to make it through his entire life. When he died, there was nothing left. And that's the way he wanted it, because he was here to pray. That's how he viewed his life. He didn't try to get rich. He tried to have enough money to support his family. He sent both of his children to university. My aunt was a concert level piano player. My father taught at the university for 50 years. My aunt's children went to Israel. Those are my cousins. But they came for freedom. That's why they were here. The group that went to Israel, they went to be part of a socialist project in what was called Eretz Yisrael. Now, why were Jews socialists? I mean, we got to understand right off the bat, they were, and they still are here in this country today. There's a very large number, percentage-wise, of American Jews that are aligned with leftist causes. And we got to think about why that is. And, well, first off, if they're leftists, which is an anti-God, completely materialist worldview, they don't believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's not their thing. They have transferred that messianic fervor to the idea of a communist revolution, which is a utopian kind of a endpoint. So they've taken a messianic endpoint that was religiously scoped, and they've made it materially scoped through communism. Also, the people were suffering tremendous repression and discrimination, and communism is a cudgel to be used against power structures. So they aligned with these power structures, with the groups that were taking down the czars of Russia, for example. They wanted to change. They wanted revolutionary change. That's what, in their minds, was setting the people free. And though their grandchildren and great-grandchildren have carried on this tradition here in the United States of America. And there is a narrative that we're told. We're told a narrative that the Nazis were on the right and the communists were on the left. And that's a lie. It's a complete lie. It's a rewriting of history done by our PhDs to make, the Nazis right-wing, so that any nationalist movement, any movement of the right, can be painted with the brush of Nazism. And of course, Jewish historians and Jewish academics are at the forefront of this. But actually, if you study and you go, and anybody can do this, and I urge you to study it yourself, all of you, don't take my word for it. You go back and look at the politics of Germany before the Nazis took over. The communists were on the left, and so were the Nazis. The Nazi Party, its name was the National Socialist Party. National Socialists. They were also leftists. The communists believed that the state should own the means of production. The socialists are also leftists and believe that individuals can own the means of production, but that they work for the state. So it was just about the economic organization of production, but they were both left-wing movements. So now today, the leftists, which there's a lot of Jews in those movements, in the universities, in the streets, in law, a lot of judges, leftists, lawyers, leftists, they will paint the right movement, the Trump movement, the Republican Party, or anybody that talks about borders and national sovereignty, they will paint them as Nazis, which is a complete miscarriage of history. Why do Jews want a borderless society? Well, they've been expelled from a lot of countries, and they've been on the road a long time, and they want to be protected from another genocide, because they suffered. It's in my memory. I wasn't there, but the people that I grew up with were there, and never again in the nation of Israel gets linked together. that we were taught that because we have a nation, we can never be the victims of genocide ever again. And over time, this is just my opinion, that this never again thing has turned into never again mean, okay, I'm going to protect myself. Well, protecting myself, what do they say in football? The best offense is a good defense?
I don't watch football. I don't know.
Something like that. But, offense and defense kind of the same thing. You can be on offense and in defense at the same time. So they kind of decided in Israel that the best defense is to go on offense and just wipe out all these problems.
Yeah.
And that's what we're living through right now.
That's the Cobra Kai way from Karate Kid.
There you go. Okay, great. So, we got all these problems with the Jewish community, and anti-Semitism is on the rise. And I can only say to the Jewish people that are listening, and I hope Mark Levin listens to this and calls me an asshole, because the focus on Israel in our politics, when our children are being brainwashed and not being taught how to live healthy lives, just for example, or when they're here in the state of Minnesota, an enormous proportion of our energy is being stolen by vampires. You said, okay, metaphor. Right? Metaphor. But, we're working for a living and then we're paying, huge tax bills and it's getting stolen. I mean, these are problems that are so fundamental, and we're spending our time at the highest level of our government giving billions of dollars to Israel. We just read over 20 billion just last week. That focus, that emphasis in foreign policy is alienating our young people at a level that boomers don't understand. That's why I used the word Zoomer at the beginning, Zoomers and boomers. My concern is that we maintain the republic. I don't want to see another genocide. I don't want to see the Jewish people hurt anyway. But please, let's not, the Jewish people, be doing things that undermine a sovereign nation. I went to a movie that's in the movie theaters right now this past Friday called Nuremberg. Now, do you know about the Nuremberg trials?
That's the truth trials, right?
It's the trials of the Nazis in 1946 at the end of World War II.
And they gave the opportunity for people to come forward and explain why they just lay out the truth.
Well, they didn't give them the opportunity. They were indicted and they hung most of those people, a lot of them.
Yeah, well, so the opportunity is if you're going to speak, maybe we're not going to kill you.
No, they were going to kill them. But they gave them an opportunity to speak because what they wanted to do, instead of just lining these people up and shooting them, which there was a lot of energy towards, why are we messing around with a show trial? It was a show trial.
Yeah.
They wanted to create world governance by creating an architecture of international law that would criminalize genocide in a way to deter it in the future. That was the front story. That was the front story. But while they were pointing over here, like, look at these Somalis, the United States government was operating Operation Paperclip, and we imported thousands of Nazis to work in our universities and in our space program. So while we're hanging people, the top leadership, one level down, we put them into business all over the world. They were running the EU, they were running the space program, they were in our universities, Nazis with Nazi ideology. So, at one level, it was a very beautiful idea, which was, let's create international law to prevent genocide, and let's let a trial take the place of a firing squad. But, really, if you look back and even in the movie they talk about the trial, it wasn't really it wasn't an above board deal. It was a dirty deal. And that's what the movie was about, that story. But this story was such a propaganda piece about American politics that I really felt like I needed a bath after I went to see it. And this is the power of Hollywood. And I don't know I did look up who funded it. And I'm going to let everybody else look it up. Because if you follow the money, you're going to see this movie was not an accident. Starred Russell Crowe as Hermann Goering, who was the #2 guy in Germany at the time of the Nazi regime. And it was about his trial and his relationship with an American Army officer who was a psychiatrist who was there to analyze him. And at the end, the psychiatrist went off on a rant, which was not even hidden. It was just in-your-face indictment of current politics in America and Trump. Well, okay. We're in a very complex time with very complex issues. And I run into anti-Semitism pretty frequently. People don't know who I am. They don't know my story. And they call me nasty names. And, there's sometimes threats against me because I'm an American-born person that was Jewish by birth, which was not I had no choice in it. I just showed up in it, and I've been trying to figure it out my entire life. The point is this, and this is to my Jewish brothers and sisters. You're blessed to live in a free country. Don't fuck it up. You're making people hate you with propaganda screeds like Nuremberg. People are actually hating the Jewish people now. I took my bride, my stepson, to this deal. We went out to eat. I said, tell me the truth. He didn't even want to talk to me about the truth. I had to tell him, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. You know what he told me? Friends in his friend group are openly anti-Semitic.
Yep.
And it's deeply troubling to him.
Yeah.
Because he's living with, a Jewish prayer. And he hears me pray in Hebrew frequently. Because it's, you pray, you sing, and some of it's out loud. And he hears it, and he knows. And he didn't even want to tell me. Well, then we get into the Zoomers, the Zoomer cons, which are in Washington. There's lots of young people in Washington who are working in government as aides and staffers, because we have a Republican regime there now. And it turns out a very large percentage of these people are actually followers of Nick Fuentes. These are people working in government, which means that the anti-Semitism is right in our government, right in the movement in the right of the America First movement. Well, here's the first problem. These are white kids that believe in a white-dominated culture. That's not going to work. That cow's out of the pasture. So that's a losing political strategy, number one. So if you don't like me because I'm Jewish and you want some kind of return to a kind of a Protestant dominated country, and, that's just not going to work politically. It doesn't work. And there's a lot of Catholics now that have uptaken this anti-Semitism, even though the church is, against anti-Semitism. These are very complex issues. Now I'm just going to talk about the strategy and tactics of this. The strategy to say we're going to hate people, it's not going to be a winning electoral strategy. It's a loser. And the left is going to paint the freedom movement or the America First movement as being a hateful movement. And they did it very successfully in the 1930s. Remember, America First is a rehash of what happened in the 30s. And the same forces came, the same media came, the same politicians of the left came and painted these people as haters and took that movement down. We've been through a lot in this country with the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement, gay rights movement. Like it or not, we have established that every American citizen is sovereign. If they're a citizen, they're sovereign. Why can't we just respect each other as American citizens? All you got to do is go to the mall and see this is not a white country anymore. It's a little stunning to me because it's happened over my lifetime. I remember when I was the other. Now, man, I go to the mall, I go, whoa, it's changed. We have to take and fall back, in my opinion, on the Constitution. And we have to work on making a republic that's based on and fundamentally grounded in our constitutional values, which includes the sovereignty of every citizen. Jewish people seem to me to be promoting an internationalist ideology, a scientific-based ideology, because they believe and have believed since 1945 that that's the safest place for them to go. Because when you get half your people clipped out in 5 years, you're going to come up with a lot of strategies to keep that from happening again, which includes creating the state of Israel. So really, for most of my adult life, this seemed to make a lot of sense that we're going to defend illegal Muslim immigrants as Jewish people because they're the other. And if the Muslims get deported, the Jews are next. If the Muslims get hated, the Jews are next. And so on and so forth. We need to have international institutions which destroy borders, which destroy sovereignty, which destroy ethnicity, because if people are ethnically aware, like you were talking at the beginning of the podcast, you went to that Hmong festival and you said, well, look what these people can do culturally.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that scares Jewish people. That scares them. Because look what the Nazis did. Because they had a strong sense of being German and they cleaned house. And that's another thing. Why did they clean house? Was it because the Jews were Jews or because the Jews had aligned with the communists and the Nazis and the communists were at war with each other? Something you have to do your own research on, come to your own conclusions. But Jewish people have believed in these international structures. They have believed in education, things that are far from tilling the soil, far from working with your hands. They're uniquely suited to exist in a technological society, and they, to protect themselves, have aligned themselves with a borderless one world government. We saw Larry Fink there on the 5 steps to creating one world government. There was Larry Fink talking about replacing human beings with robots.
Yep.
I don't think a Jewish person could say that. He's not a Jew, he's a Gino. How could you replace humanity with technology if you believed in God and you believe God created man? God created man and woman. Man created technology. Well, that comes right out of the Adam and Eve story if you want to delve into it. So we're at a moment in time where I'm going to say lovingly to my fellow brothers and sisters in the Jewish community, we don't have to participate with people that want to destroy this republic. This republic is beautiful, and our forefathers that are here. If you're here in America, your forefather or foremother that came here did not go to Israel for a reason. They didn't want to hang with the socialists. They wanted economic opportunity and religious freedom. That's why they're here. That's why you're here. So let's not forget all the fruits, all of the benefits that this community has received being in America. Let us now think through why people are hating us. In addition to fighting the anti-Semitism, which I'm 100% for, because there's no winning with that. That's going to be turned against American citizens and used to create a communist politic. We can't let hate be, if we hate, it's just Tai Chi. They're going to take that hate, they're going to use it against us. We have to heal the hate. We have to. And then we have to be firmly rooted in what it is to be an American, to live in a republic. We got to bring every citizen we can to that rally point. And that's my idea about how politics is going to have to work. There is no other strategy, I think, that's going to work just because of the numbers. And so Jews are aligned with keeping illegal immigrants in the country. No. If you're here illegally, you got to go. If you came in this last wave, during the Biden administration, that was an invasion. You got to go. You got to go. If you've been here for 20 years, maybe it's a different story. Maybe it's not. I'm not here to delve into that tonight. But if you came in here on a wave of citizens that were brought here to destroy this republic, you got to go. It's just that simple. And if you're defending that in Lutheran social services or Catholic social services or Jewish social services or the ADL, if you're defending that, you're on the wrong side of the football. You're not preserving a sovereign nation. Now, if you're not preserving a sovereign nation, would it be any surprise that the citizens that love this country and its traditions and want to maintain a sovereign nation have decided to hate on your ass because you're trying to take away from them everything that they believe in? It would seem to me that this is a very dangerous move for the Jewish community. And you go look at that movie Nuremberg, this kind of propaganda, this craven propaganda is very dangerous for the Jewish community. So if we really want to dampen down the anti-Semitism, if we really want to make progress in the country that our forefathers chose, it's time for some internal self-reflection and some effort to align with Republican values because, hey, you're an American citizen and your Constitution demands that every state in this union is guaranteed a Republican form of governance. And a Republican form of governance is based on the idea that a creator granted you the rights you enjoy. So why are you hanging around with leftists that don't believe in God? If that's what you want to do, quit calling yourself a Jew. And on that note, that controversial note,
I hope everybody listened to the whole episode to hear the ending.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what comes up in the comments because, when I talk about this, it's dangerous and it's heavy, and I love the Jewish people, but you can go wrong. I mean, look at our whole country. Our whole country's gone down the wrong road.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the wrong road. Okay, hey, it's an experiment. Let's not hate people because they fly up their own ass. Let's come back to the principles, the great principles that make this country a republic where every citizen is a sovereign of their own lives. Thank you. We're going to have a great guest on Thursday. Back to the big table.
Oh, yeah.
Want to thank everybody for watching. Want everybody to be well. Keep your head on a swivel. We're living in very dangerous times. Thank you very much for joining.
Have a good night, everybody.